Too often we see cities fall prey to the evils of monopsony, that there becomes a single purpose function for the whole city. And this could be due to economic incentives. For most developers, residential is the cash cow. It's the way to make money. And so more is better. It could also be due to social planning, where you have the evils of having one big plan, someone sitting on high with a large pen and drawing out dramatically different zones. Here is residential, there is industrial, over there is commercial. In many ways, this, of course, is the legacy of the first great success of urban planning, which was the movement of residential away, the movement of factories away from the city center to leave the residents untouched by the noxious offspring of their chemical effluents in Victorian London. And that was in the interests of public health and reflecting the poor conditions of industries at the time. But of course, we've moved on from then. And in fact, in many ways, the industries of today are contributors to a positive environment. In fact, they wouldn't even know if they're there in many ways, the high-tech manufacturing facilities of today. So this whole rationale of separating out industry and residents and from a planning perspective is somewhat misguided, or at least it's certainly outdated. And what's happening, as we know, is that when we do that, we wind up separating where people live and when they work and where they eat and where they play. And those are the things that people really want. And so instead, we wind up building roads or, in some cases, public transit infrastructure to get them from here to there. And ultimately, we confuse mobility with access. What people want is access. They want access to education. They want access to jobs. They want access to a safe living environment. But we say that you have to then go from here to there to get that. And that's missing the opportunity, the real opportunity, which is to do it all together. And so we come back to this notion of density, and not only of density, but also of multifunctional capability to have live, work, eat, play, all in the same place. And if we don't have that, what we wind up with is sprawl. We have low-income people who have to spend 4 or 5 hours a day commuting simply to get access to the basics of life. And of course, when you do that much commuting, then you no longer really have a life, that it becomes simply a function of how do I get from A to B. So when we look at a vibrant and well-functioning planned community, it would say, let's try to have a mix. Let's have a mix that says at least 20-25% residential, but then let's also have job creation going on. So another 20-25% of something that's related to the economic life of the city, whether that's industrial or commercial. And then plus, of course, there is the public facilities, the schools, the healthcare. All this needs to take place within the city. So another, 10 to 15% there, and then the rest, well, to be determined. And there's public space, there is cultural space, there is government itself. All these things have to be thought about as part of the plan, and it's again an integrated, multifunctional plan that will make the city work. When we fail to put in place mixed-use, multifunctional developments, what we wind up with is sprawl and commute times that ultimately penalize the most vulnerable in society. Low-income commuters typically spend anywhere between 4 to 6 hours a day going between one of their several jobs. And of course, at that level, one is no longer commuting to obtain the basics of life because simply the life is fragmented. There is no longer an ability to have a social existence. And that has real impacts for the city in terms of higher costs of crime, as well as externalities in the form of lower productivity. So creating a vibrant, mixed-use, multifunctional facility is not just a social good, but really an economic one as well. And that can't be left up to the marketplace. If it is simply done based on economic incentives, what we have seen time and again is, large-scale residential facilities that are developed almost as warehouses for people. So this is the role of the city, is to think through what is the right mix and how to develop it most effectively.